Anyone that knows me is fully aware that I'm an advocate for a good drink every now and again. Something to enjoy in moderation, of course. But what happens when a sporting event decides to basically hand out drinks for free and give their fans unlimited alcohol? Well, there's only two words that can describe the outcome of this situation. Absolute chaos. Hello! Welcome to Brain Spill, the laziest show on the internet. My name is Tank, and baseball, a national pastime for Americans since, well, the start of baseball. With a whole host of different levels and leagues running all the way up to the Major League Baseball. Oh, and Canada has a team too, for some reason. Like any national sport, the audience gets invested. They support their teams and become passionate over their performance. Pride is on the line here, people. And something else that many sports share in common is the fans that come and watch the sports also like to enjoy a good drink whilst they're watching their team play. And, like in this case, many people will buy beer when they go and watch a baseball game. Either that, or they'll just get too drunk and too battered to make an absolute fool of themselves. Either way. And of course at these events there's always a small handful of people who drink too much and are a little bit too much to handle. But when that's only a small amount of people, that's fine, because that's manageable. However, what isn't manageable is when the entire stadium gets too hammered to know what to do and you can't control them. And that is something that has happened one time, and never again. And this is what we're going to be talking about today, a very specific baseball game that occurred on the 4th of June 1974 between the Texas Rangers and the Cleveland Indians. This game was particularly contentious alone and was certainly exacerbated by what I'm going to be telling you. These teams going against each other earlier in the season already were not on good terms due to an on-bench brawl that occurred in a game just weeks prior. This led to a lot of fans harbouring resentment for the Rangers following this incident. This all happened due to escalating tensions over a controversial second base hard slide into the baseman Jack Brohammer. In retaliation, the Indians started intentionally throwing the pitching ball behind the batter's head in an attempt to get them to lean back and be hit with the ball. This led to a confrontation and eventually brawl due to the foul play involved, which led to the teams being broken up. After having some time to cool off, the Indians players started coming back to the field. So what happened, naturally, was the Rangers started throwing things at them, the audience I mean. So they started throwing anything from old food containers to drinks to anything they could get their hands on, really. This of course infuriated the team, and the catcher Dave Duncan had to be physically restrained from jumping into the audience to start a fight with the crowd. At the end of the game, the Rangers won at a score of 3-0, which kind of left a sour taste in people's mouths and would just be a precursor for what's to come. So, probably not caring about the outcome of this match and the feathers that had been ruffled, the idea for the 10 cents beer night was born at the next game at the Cleveland Stadium. The idea behind the promotion was to try and attract as many fans as possible to this game, offering cheap beer at just 10 cents each. Each beer was 3.2%. Whilst not the strongest beer in the world, the fact that it was so goddamn cheap probably didn't matter, as volume alone can change a man. Now, when you went to the bar, there was a limit of up to 6 beers at a time, which is ridiculous because if you're going to put a limit in, why 6? But anyway, the problem with this was that there was no way to keep track of how many times someone had been back to the bar, so technically you could ferry beer back and forth from the bar for the entire game and get as much beer as you wanted. And I know it's not technically free, it's 10 cents a beer, but at that cheap it may as well be free. At the time, a beer probably cost you about 65 cents, so this was a significant discount at the time. This led to twice the normal admissions at a whopping 25,134 attendees at the game. It started with an early lead from the Rangers, but as the night wore on, so did the inebriated fans attending the game, pounding 10 cents beers to their heart's content. This began to escalate as their behaviour started to become more and more unruly. Cleveland's Leron Lee hit a line drive into the stomach of Rangers pitcher Ferguson Jenkins, after which Jenkins dropped to the ground. Fans then began to chant to hit him again. They wanted blood. A woman decided to run to the Indians' side and flash her breasts. Another man, butt naked, decided to run to second base whilst a home run was being hit. And one inning later, a father and son duo decided to run to the outfield and moon the fans in the bleachers. So, the fans were really getting out of control here. This behaviour started getting more and more out of control, and one of the players was pelted with hot dogs when he walked past the audience. Now, this escalated when a Cleveland player had spiked an opposition player with their cleats, causing them to have to leave play. This enraged the Rangers fans, to which Cleveland fans retaliated with throwing objects onto the field, including firecrackers into the Rangers bullpen. This all simmered until the end of the game, where the Indians managed to claw back a tie at 5-all. Now, you would have thought that this might have been the perfect outcome for the game. There was no clear winner, it was a fair draw, so everybody should just leave it be and go home. Yeah, that's what you'd think would happen. And no, people had come to know there was going to be a winner. Even if the game ended in a draw, there was going to be a winning team, one way or another. And, well, you're not going to believe what happened next. This is where everything boiled over. As soon as the game finished as a tie, a 19-year-old man ran onto the field and attempted to steal Texas outfielder Jeff Burr's cap. 'Cause, hey, after 10 pints of beer, that's probably a fantastic idea to do. So, what happened was he confronted the fan and in the course of doing so, actually tripped and fell on the floor. But the rest of his team thought that this was a deliberate attack on their fellow player. So, they decided to go back to their bullpen and grab their bats. Things were about to get messy. Many intoxicated Indians fans got up and armed themselves with chains, knives and other objects found to storm the field, and basically start a riot. Some fans even started tearing up the chairs from the stands and used these as weapons. The Cleveland manager ordered his players to grab the bats to help the Rangers, attacking their team's own fans. This fight eventually led to the teams managing to make their way to the dugouts and effectively lock themselves in so the fans couldn't attack them any further. Things got absolutely out of control. With the players nowhere in sight, the fans decided to then wreck everything else they could find, including the field, the bases, the equipment, the actual bleachers themselves. They just caused a mock, and the riot continued. And, well, something which probably should have happened earlier was, after all of this, the umpire forfeited the game, meaning that, well, that's the end. This riot carried on for a further 20 minutes before the Cleveland police arrived and decided to break up the crowds. So, it does make you wonder, even though they'd sold out record tickets and they probably made quite a bit of money with their 10 cents beer night, was it really worth it? Because it almost sounds like what they had to pay back in property damage costs was probably more than what they made from this single night of baseball. Thankfully, nobody was killed or fatally injured, but the outcome did result in injuries to many players, officials and fans. The exact count was never known. However, 9 fans were arrested and some were eventually charged with disorderly conduct as a result of the riots. Indians players volunteered to escort their Texas colleagues to the team bus, provided that it was not lying on their side or in flames after what had happened. Neither was thankfully the case. As a matter of fact, there was a further beer promotion night on the 18th of July that year. However, they decided to change the rules slightly and decided that there would only be a maximum of 2 beers at the reduced price, so things didn't get quite as leery as they did before. It just goes to show that you can certainly have too much of anything, including cheap beer. And really, there was never a night like this again, because I'm pretty sure baseball learned not to serve your fans 10-cent beer, unless you want this to happen again. Although nothing quite like this has ever happened again in baseball, this certainly sits in baseball history as a reminder of what happens if care and security is not taken over the fan conduct to protect both the attendees, officials and players alike. Maybe that, or just put a little bit of water in every cup of beer they sell. Either way. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to be notified as soon as I upload my next video, be sure to hit the bell button. And if you've got any ideas for what topics you'd like me to discuss next, let me know down in the comments below. As always, sources used in the video will be in the description. Honestly, I kind of wish this whole drinking beer for 10 cents thing was still a thing, because that would make my drinking habits a lot more affordable. The sacrifices I make for you guys is immeasurable. However, you probably won't catch me tearing up my front room because I drank too much cheap beer, so that, thankfully, isn't something we have to worry about. I'll see you guys in the next video. Fantastic.